What up?
What's going on, girl?
Nothing. Feeling alive.
Another Monday, another Feels.
Another Feels.
How you feeling?
Crazy. Feeling like $1 million.
$1 million?
$1 million.
All right.
How are
I'm
you?
feeling better. I'm feeling a little better. Scooch this way a little bit.
Oh.
Is that a better shot? How's it look on that one? We have to change the angle. All right.
Yay.
We've got a couple more minutes. Okay, we're just going to wrap for a little bit. Well, not really wrap. I rapped last time. Unless you want to wrap this time.
I could. Honestly, back in the day, bets had some rhymes.
Yeah, you could take over a cipher.
I could take over a cipher if you fed me some weed, actually.
What if we fed you some beats?
You might gotta pay me more money. Nah, that's not enough. I don't
That's
see
not
enough.
enough?
I don't see enough dollar signs right now.
Don't make me do fat boys.
Please.
That's the best I'm gonna
Please
get.
don't. Save us.
That hurts. I don't know how he was able to do that for so long.
Aw.
He was a young man though.
Are you feeling okay though?
Oh, I was sick for 3 days. Caught a cold. 'Tis the season. It's just nice to know that it's not COVID.
I know.
You know?
Hallelujah.
When I started
Well,
feeling like crap, I'm like, okay, this is just a cold. It ain't COVID. I'm good. I can ride it out for the next couple of days.
I know. And honestly, whatever you had, I had, because this weekend I was going through it. It's okay. That's what cannabis is for.
That's right. It's the only medicine I take.
Can't spell healthcare without THC.
Another one. How are we looking over there, senior producer? Yeah? Time to start the show? All right, let's start the show. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Feels. I am Jeff. This is the lovely Dr. Bex. Every Monday at 5:30-ish, we're going to cover another exciting cannabis topic. So far, we've covered cannabinoids, how to choose a chemovar, how to achieve your biphasic dose, and we broke down the endocannabinoid system like a fraction for you. Today's topic, terpenes.
Now, not everyone is familiar with the term, but you're definitely familiar with the chemicals. Ever zested a lemon? You've smelt limonene. That smell of pepper and spices? You got a snootful of beta-caryophyllene. Terpenes are the compounds responsible for the fragrance, taste, and some of the pigments of plants. That's right, plants plural, not just cannabis. Terpenes are literally everywhere. They can be found in flowers like lavender, fruits like citrusy oranges, herbs like basil, spices like cinnamon, and trees like pine.
Now, inside the cannabis plant, terpenes grow alongside cannabinoids inside of trichomes. Don't worry if you're feeling a little gobsmacked there. We're going to back it up and tackle them one at a time. Terpenes are secondary chemicals that grow alongside cannabinoids, the primary chemicals in cannabis. Where do they grow? Inside of trichomes. Now, the dictionary definition of a trichome is a small hair or other outgrowth from the epidermis of a plant, typically unicellular and glandular.
And if you take a good look at a trichome, it looks just like that, a tiny hairy outgrowth on top of the leaves and flowers of the cannabis plant. Though a better description of how it looks would be a mushroom with a long, thin stem and a round, bulbous cap. Now, if your flowers have been cured properly, these trichomes are going to have a milky white to amber colorations to them. If they were harvested too early, they're going to look clear. It's possible to tell their colors with the naked eye. However, it's easiest to get a close-up look at the trichomes if you have something more particular like a jeweler's loupe.
Hey Doc, why don't we take a closer look at what's going on at Feel State? In 2 days, it's 11/24, y'all. Green Wednesday.
8.
For those out of the loop, Green Wednesday is like Black Friday for the cannabis industry. It's the second biggest sales day after 420. Every Wednesday before Thanksgiving, patients in droves stock up for the holidays. In fact, according to Headset, a cannabis data and marketing company, during the last 11/24, Cannabis sales top that of Christmas's Black Friday. Take that, old Saint Nick.
Well, y'all, we definitely won't be acting Grinch-like on 11/24. We want everyone to have a happy Feelsgiving. Check out what we got going on at Feel State Florissant. We want to keep it as simple as possible for y'all, so all day Wednesday, that is 11/24, 24% off. You cannot combine it with other discounts or accessories, but 24% off is solid. That's even better than our first timers and veterans discounts.
Solid as a rock. Dun, 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 dun.
And in spirit of Thanksgiving, while being oh so thankful for our patients, we're also offering 15% off all day on Black Friday.
All right, I'm going to drop some science on these folks, and I'm going to try not to blow their minds. When it comes to cannabis, there are two types of terpenes that are most frequent: monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes. I told you I'd be dropping science. Here comes some more. A monoterpene is a class of terpenes with 2 isoprene units. A sesquiterpene is a class of terpenes with 3 or more isoprene units. If you're wondering what an isoprene is, that is a hydrocarbon or 5 carbon units.
Come on now, Jeff. You literally just said you weren't going to blow their minds. And I sure didn't think you would take me back to my organic chemistry days in pharmacy school.
I know, Doc, but we're getting into the nitty-gritty of cannabis now. This episode might require more than one viewing. We're going to have to break it down like Corrupt and Too Short.
Challenge accepted, Corrupt. Let's reverse engineer this, starting with isoprenes. An isoprene is made up of 5 units of carbon. Imagine 5 lines attached to each other in a chain. A monoterpene has 2 isoprenes, or 10 units of carbon. Some monoterpenes you might have heard of are Myrcene, Limonene, and Linalool. A sesquiterpene has 15 units of carbon chained together. Some sesquiterpenes you might have heard of are Linalool, Humulene, and Caryophyllene.
Damn, Too Short. I mean, itty bitty. You must feel a ton lighter, because that was some heavy knowledge you just dropped. I only hope you missed your toes. Now, knowledge ain't the only thing dropping at Feel State Florissant. Prices are dropping too. Flora Farms has changed to tiered pricing based on THC percentages. And this is coming from Flora, y'all, not us. Y'all gave them too much love on Reddit. Nah, I'm kidding. Flora has stepped their game up. That's why we can offer $35 eighths of lemonberry candy, lilac cookies, pineapple kush, sap, and watermelon Skittles. We're also offering $200 and $10 zips of those chemovars, 210. In fact, there's only one Flora chemovar that's going up in price, and that's Bubba Kush, now priced $45.
Whoa, all that tasty info left me hungry to share some more knowledge, Jeff. Where did we leave off? Oh yeah, tasty terpenes. We were talking about their important carbon units. These chains of carbon, called isoprenes, can be rearranged into different combinations to create thousands of different terpenes. There are literally over 20,000 different terpenes across the almost 400,000 plants that is only known to science. With biologists believing that there are over 7 million types of plants and animals on the planet, it kind of sounds like there are probably a little more terpenes yet to be discovered.
Not only to be discovered, but there are familiar terpenes I know you've heard of that you aren't going to believe are terpenes, like testosterone and estrogen. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Both of our sex hormones are tetracyclic sesquiterpenes. That's 3 isoprenes, or how many carbon units, Doc?
15.
All right, right on. Here's another familiar terpene you might have seen on your vitamin shelves or in your local grocery store. Retinol, also known as vitamin A. Vitamin A is a monocyclic diterpene. That's 4 isoprene units, or
20 carbon units, Jeff.
Very punctilious, Doc. Man, she's paying attention like St. Nick checks his list. Now, I know everyone's been checking this terpene. Cholesterol. No lie, cholesterol is a tetracyclic triterpene.
And remember, we need cholesterol to help digest food, build cells, and make hormones. But too much cholesterol, like anything in life, is not good for you.
Doc, you're not going to believe what the most widely known terpene on the planet is. Want to guess? Rubber.
Shut up.
I'm serious. Rubber is an acyclic polyterpene with 40,000 isoprene units. That's 200,000 carbon units.
Jeff, like, we get it. We gotta talk about something else.
Okay.
My head is starting to spin. Next thing you're gonna tell me something completely wild, like latex is a terpene.
So is polypropylene.
We have some great products here at Field State, y'all.
Hey, Doc. 20,000.
We have Honeybee's 300 milligram peanut pretzel milk chocolate bar. Delicious. Each bar is scored into 10 pieces for 30 milligrams of THC per piece. Each piece is further scored so you can snap it in half for 15 milligram doses. Even if you're a more experienced patient with your 300 milligram bar, start low and go slow. And work your way up to your biphasic dose. Edibles, like any other ingested medicine, have to be digested, then go through your liver for what's called the first pass metabolism. First pass can take anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes to take place, so please be patient, patients.
Please be patient. Now, we also have 2 different flavors of gummies from High Five: Huckleberry Lemonade and Strawberry Watermelon. For those that don't know, myself included before we wrote this, huckleberries are often confused with blueberries, despite the fact that there are over 30 species in North America. They taste sweet and tart depending upon the color and are mild in flavor. Huckleberry is also 1/3 of my favorite line from the movie Tombstone. I'm your huckleberry.
And scene. All right, let's try to rein this wagon in before we go completely off the trail, y'all. We're talking terpenes, my good people. So when it comes to terpenes in cannabis, they fall into 2 major classes: monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes. Let's start with a common cannabis monoterpene, beta-myrcene. Beta just implies there's such a thing as an alpha-myrcene. While beta is more common, both are enantiomers of each other. That means they are mirror images like our hands. Put our hands together and the images line up. Put our hands on top of each other and the images are stacked on top of each other.
Wu-Tang.
Ay.
So, when we put our hands together and the images line up, now on the other hand, pun intended, put one on top and the others, yeah, you already read that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You did. Well, that's what happens when I have to control the teleprompter at the same time. So, beta-myrcene, like Doc said, is the most common of all terpenes in cannabis. It has a musty smell to it, kind of like decomposing leaves. Despite smelling like a forest floor, beta-myrcene has some wonderful properties to it. It's bioavailable within human plasma within 30 minutes. Now, once you have some good old myrcene in you, there's a really good chance you're going to start feeling a lot calmer. In a 2018 study on mice, inhalation of essential cannabis oils containing myrcene reduced stress and anxiety in the little squeakers after only 5 minutes.
Whoa, that's super interesting, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
However, one of the most interesting things to me about myrcene is that in higher percentages, it is actually more sedative. But in lower percentages, it's likely to induce an energetic high. But regardless of the percentages, myrcene is an antioxidant. That means it inhibits the production of free radicals that damage cells. Myrcene also helps in the prevention of aging and degenerative diseases such as atherosclerosis, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, diabetes, and neurological illnesses like Alzheimer's.
Now, a recent study concluded that 4 terpenes present in the cannabis plant, beta-myrcene, alpha-pinene, Beta-Caryophyllene, and Limonene, had no direct interaction with our CB1 or CB2 receptors. But that doesn't mean that they're the only receptors in our bodies. Myrcene has been shown to regulate pain through our TVRP1 receptors. Now, if you're unable to find a chemovar with myrcene, which is highly unlikely, you can load up by consuming on some mango, some hops, or some lemongrass found at your local grocery store.
Okay. Speaking of groceries, is your cannabis pantry looking a little bare? Well, it's time to stock up then. We have a ton of new pre-rolls from Illicit. Each pack has 2 0.5 joints in the following chemivars: GMO Cookies, Purple Chem, Ghost OG, Purple Tonic, Clementine, and White Widow.
Oh, take me back to the 90s, White Widow. We got 5 packs too of 0.5 gram pre-rolls of all those chemivars except the Purple Tonic. We've also got some new Illicit live resin carts, 0.5 grams of Clementine and full grams of Mac Dog, Ghost OG, and Strawberry Float.
Delicious. Our next terpene is Terpinolene. This sweet and piney terpene can also be found in parsnips, tea tree, nutmeg, apples, and garlic. In folk medicine, garlic is often used for gastric disorders. In Western medicine, terpinolene helps with cellular repair by helping prevent the oxidation of an agent that moves cholesterol around the body to help repair cells. Cholesterol, being a terpene, is starting to make a little more sense now.
Mm-hmm. Terpinolene also downregulates the protein that helps in the creation of leukemia cells. Terpinolene is also an anti-proliferative against neuroblastoma, which is adrenal gland cancer, and it acts as an antioxidant in our white blood cells. Finally, terpinolene is sedative on its own, but stimulating when working together with THC.
Oh, well, speaking of being stimulating, have you tried Mandarin cookies from Heya?
Yes, love it.
We all have. This deliciously uplifting chemovar is a cross of Mandarin Sunset and Forum Cut cookies. A little online research will also tell you that this is a type 1 sedating chemovar, but for many of us here at Field State Florissant, we found Mandarin cookies to be an uplifting, I got things to do chemovar. Just goes to show that cannabis affects everyone differently.
Mm-hmm. I've been really happy to see Blue Dream back in the house, though. This chemovar from Flora Farms takes me back to the beginning of the 21st century. First time I smoked Blue Dream, I literally felt a change of consciousness after puff number 1. Some tumblers in my brain that hadn't locked into place, and forever thereafter, I was a changed man for the better.
So was this before or after dinosaurs?
Oh, snap. T-Rex was always my favorite. When I was a little kid, I could go to Washington, D.C., the museum. I knew all the dinosaurs.
Right. Anyways, this next terpene has some pretty life-changing properties to it, and it's called limonene. Limonene comes in 2 types. There's type R and type S. Type R has an orange scent to it. Limonene inhibits anxiety-related behavior through alpha-2A receptor-mediated regulation. Our alpha-2A receptors just help in regulating how much oxygens our hearts consume and how our blood flows through our heart. Limonene also helps regulate the neurotransmitters in our central nervous system. All these factors can help reduce anxiety.
And only because you missed the line, type S has a lemon scent to it.
I meant to say that.
That's all right. Limonene also acts as an antidepressant in a mouse model where mice were placed under what was called maternal separation stress. They suffered less separation anxiety after being given limonene. In a study all the way back in 1992, limonene killed breast cancer in little squeakers. Now, in humans, limonene helps with athlete's foot, jock itch, nail fungus, and ringworm. Limonene can also help regulate blood sugar by lowering fasting glucose levels. This can lead to healthy weight loss. And lastly, limonene acts as an antibacterial against listeria, E. coli, and staph. Now, if you've run out of cannabis and Field State happens to be closed, you can supplement with limonene found in mint, juniper, and rosemary. And if you're really in need, you can always make some pine needle tea.
Wow. Our next terpene is one we are all familiar with. That is, if we have ever mopped a floor or gone for a walk in a forest. I'm talking about pinene.
Yes.
There are 2 types, alpha pinene and beta pinene. Alpha is more common in cannabis and smells like pine needles and rosemary. Beta-Pinene scent is more akin to dill or parsley and can be present in cannabis in smaller amounts. Pinene, whether alpha or beta, has some wonderful properties to it. First off, fungal and staph infections hate pinene because of its antimicrobial properties. In a 2016 study, pinene derived from frankincense was found to calm hind paw inflammation in mice. Wow, I cannot read today.
I know. I was going to say, what's akin?
I can't say.
In a 2015 study on the bellies of some Swiss squeakers, I love saying that, squeakers.
Say it 5 times.
Squeakers, 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 squeakers. Alpha-pinene inhibited gastric lesions, reduced volume and acidity of gastric juices, and increased gastric wall mucus. Now, finally, we really buried the lead when it comes to pinene. In a 2016 study, alpha-pinene inhibited TNFA-induced MMP-9 mRNA expression and TNFA-mediated NF-κB activity by suppressing IKK in humans.
Y'all, so just what he just said in English is alpha-pinene helps fight cancer at the cellular level.
That's what I said.
Lord, pray for him, y'all. Let's all talk about terpene that's all over nature, but not so much in cannabis. Ocimene. Well, there are 3 types of this ocimene: alpha, cis-beta, and trans-beta. All 3 smell like sweet herbs. And if you're lucky enough to have purchased a chemovar with ocimene, you can expect some anti-inflammatory properties, as this suppresses inflammatory cytokines, signaling molecules that control growth of immune cells and blood cells. Ocimene also acts as an antifungal for your hair, skin, and nails. And not to bury the lead, ocimene has anti-tumor activities in human colon cancer cells. Since ocimene comes around rather irregularly in cannabis, it can also be found in allspice, parsley, pepper, basil, and mint.
Now, we got a couple more terps to talk out before we get to your questions out there. The first is linalool, of which there are 2 types, R and S. R smells like lavender, S smells like citrus. So, what benefits do they have? Well, in a 2014 study on Swiss squeakers, scientists demonstrated that linalool reduced chronic non-inflammatory pain. Linalool also acts as an antimicrobial and as a sedative.
And a 2008 study found linalool has incredibly strong activity against a broad range of cancer cells, such as carcinoma of the cervix, stomach, skin, lung, and bone.
Wow.
Now, linalool can also be found in rosewood, lavender, basil, and cinnamon. So make sure at least the latter 2 items are always in your spice rack. Now, here's an interesting fact. A study from 2021 found that linalool, as well as the terpenes alpha-humulene, beta-pinene, and geraniol, induced significant hypothermia in mice. So, if you've ever explained or had unexplained shivers after a sesh, this might hold the answer as to why.
I'm going to have to go back and reread that study
Of
because
course.
I know I've had unexplained shivers after taking that last hit off the pipe before I went to bed, and I just started getting unexplained shivers and I couldn't figure it out until I found this study.
No way.
Serious.
Makes a lot of sense.
Now, the last chemical we're going to talk about is Beta-Caryophyllene. Now, I say chemical because the jury is still out on whether or not Beta-Caryophyllene is really a terpene. The reason being, it binds to our CB2 receptors, and it is the only terpene to do so. It has incredibly anti-inflammatory properties in our heart and immune cells. It also acts as a muscle relaxer in squeakers and has the ability to affect growth and proliferation of numerous types of cancer cells. And you only need go as far as your pepper grinder because black peppercorns are loaded with Beta-Caryophyllene.
Well, I know there must be questions from the audience.
I certainly hope so. What do we got there, our producer Corey? How do terpenes work when you eat an edible? Okay, this is interesting and something I found out when researching terpenes. When you consume an edible, as Dr. Beck said, it's got to get digested by your stomach first before it goes on to the first pass in your liver. But while it's still in your stomach, it's getting eaten alive by your stomach acids. And in the process, it destroys almost all of the terpenes. So unfortunately, when you are consuming edibles, you don't get a heck of a lot of benefit from terpenes. You also lose a fair amount of cannabinoids, but as any of us who have eaten an edible know, those cannabinoids manage to make it through and we feel the beneficial effects.
Oh, yes, we do. Sometimes too well, where you're feeling too high. And I've been there. I made a batch of brownies, and I will never forget. Way too high. Like, way too high. But, of course, this lemon would have helped in hindsight, and black peppercorn in hindsight, and CBD. But anyways.
The point is, no matter what kind of an edible you're consuming, whether you make it yourself at home, whether you purchase it at a dispensary, or whether your guy gifts you something, start low and go slow. You will be much, much better off. You can't unconsume an edible after you've eaten it unless you want to stick your finger down your throat. Nobody wants to do that. All right, do we have any more questions out there?
How do terpenes interact with cannabinoids?
How do terpenes interact with cannabinoids? That's interesting because that brings into conversation the ensemble or the entourage effect. Now, the science is still being generated at this time about how these chemicals interact with each other. But we do know that they do. I wish I could say more than that. But I've always found that if I know and can study the terpene profile on a product, I have a much better experience because I can mentally prepare myself saying, all right, pinene's going to give me this, limonene is going to give me this, rather than popping open a bag of something that just says 24.63% THC.
Exactly.
So, if you folks want to learn more about the entourage effect out there, just Google entourage effect and Dr. Ethan Russo, R-U-S-S-O. He's the guy that initially coined the term entourage. We're kind of skewing it to ensemble. Entourage implies there's a star, THC. It's more like Ocean's 11. Everybody doing their part to work together for a common goal, making you feel better.
What he said.
All right. Do we have any more questions?
I have heard certain terpenes should be vaporized at specific temperatures. Is this true?
Yes, this is absolutely true. In fact, we're going to slide this right over here so we can learn you some more knowledge. We're just going to put it to ourselves. Bang! So,
it looks like at temperatures above 300 degrees, you are really cooking it up as far as your pinene, caryophyllene, myrcene, CBD, linalool, or I'll stop there because at linalool at 400, that's when linalool gets its effects. Is that what it's saying? Its effects.
Well, let's first start off by saying the boiling point is 212 degrees and combustion is 451 degrees. So in between there is where we are going to have the terpenes and their various temperatures. So let's start with humulene. 388 degrees is when that actually will evaporate. So after that temperature, you burn it off and it's no longer there available for you. Now, I'm no scientist, but I got to imagine the lower the temperature, the greater the terpene you're going to have, because the closer you get to that boiling point, I got to imagine you're burning it off. Okay. Then we've got limonene. That's 349 degrees. What do we got on the right-hand side there, Bex?
And we have myrcene at 334 degrees. Did I skip one?
We talked about Linalool at 388. What's after myrcene?
CBD is at 356.
Okay.
And at 320 is caryophyllene.
Okay. And then we got pinene at 311. I just thought of the band there for some reason. And then let's go over the cannabinoids they got here. CBC boils away at 428 degrees. CBN at 365. THC at 315, so if you're decarbing, make sure your oven is set lower than 315. For those of you out there that have an older oven, you are going to want to make sure you've got a laser temperature guide. And then we've got, you said CBD, THCA goes away at $2.20.
And lastly, we do at Field State Florissant have a spectacular food drive going on right now. Not sure if those who have been up to the store have seen right when you walk in. There is plenty of stuff to drop off. We have canned food, dried foods.
Pancake mix, pasta, non-perishable items for TEAM, the Emergency Assistance Ministry.
Yes.
They are a food pantry. They service the residents of St. Louis County.
And if you bring in these goods on, let's say, Sunday and Monday, you'll get 5% off your purchase, not including accessories. Is it 5%?
5%, not
5%,
including accessories.
Not including accessories. So come on in, be angels, and get 5% off.
And how about during Thanksgiving? Thank you, everybody, for checking out The Fields with myself, Jeff, and Dr. Bex. Next week, we're going to talk about how to become a medical cannabis patient in the state of Missouri. Have a great night, everybody.
All right.